Hello and welcome to another episode of Market Buy Live. We kind of skipped last week. I was on the road. There was no service and a whole lot of bits and pieces of fun happened with technology. But we're back this week, a little bit later in the evening, figuring we'll give everyone a bit of a chance to jump on and say g'day. And we got some cool stuff happening this week. So first and foremost, we're going to have a chat with Market Buy's founder, Dave Stewart. So we'll bring him on now. G'day, Dave. How you doing?
Good, mate. Good.
Good to see you. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a different show to normally. We look at some sales that are going and all that sort of stuff. But there was an article that came out during the week, and we'll flick this on now. So this article came out during the week in Elite Agent magazine, basically talking about, look, market buyers come of age, right? 5 years. It's kind of crazy to think it's been 5 years, man. 5 years since the first external sale of market buy. And it's been a hell of a ride. Like, I've only been involved for about the last three, but I thought, you know what, with this article, we should really sit down and have a chat about what has actually happened and what the last 5 years have looked like. It's been one hell of a ride, man.
It has. I've been in real estate since I was 23 years old, but I've in the last 5 years have never seen the highs and the downs of trying to start up a brand new technology company. It has absolutely been a roller coaster. But we've just stuck to it. We've just kept forging ahead and just building and improving and evolving and just kept on growing. And we're now at a point where we are. We did a record month last month, and that was on the back of a record month the month before, and we're just growing in leaps and bounds. So very very excited about what the future holds for Market Buy.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we get to be on the inside and having a look at that. And I'll ask you a little bit about that. Going back, and I mean, look, as this article came out, obviously, there were key things that were raised, that were brought up, and key milestones. But what for you have been the key milestones over the last 5 years? What were the game-changing innovations that you and the dev team put together in particular, to change the update, to change how it was used, and how did they come about?
Oh, there's been so many. I was so proud when we ran that first sale. And Joel, our lead developer, and I, we were over the moon that we'd managed to get a sale away. I look back at that now after all the years, and it was an extraordinarily clunky piece of software. I look back on it. While I thought it was the best instant sliced bread on that first sale, it just had nowhere near the capabilities that we've got now. If someone presented that to me today, I would just laugh at it and walk away. But you've got to start somewhere, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
So the first key point was making that decision to build it. I think everyone has ideas, and everyone has a view that they can change something or they can do something. And the hardest thing is to actually decide to do it. And I don't know, like looking back, if I'd known that we would have gone through all the ups and downs that we have, I don't know that you would necessarily voluntarily put yourself through that. But it's been worth it in the end. But it's been a tough slog, particularly those first 2 years. The first time when I sold the first property through it, and being a real estate agent, always about self promotion, I put it in a few real estate groups, and I was stunned, mate. People just laughed at me, and that'll never work, and that's ridiculous. And for the first year, people would ring me and go, "What are you doing?" And I'd explain it to them, and I'd run demos, and they'd just laugh at me. Like they honestly thought that this was just a complete joke, and it was never going to get anywhere. And that is massively demoralizing. You go back, and you just think, "What have I done? Am I really? Is the rest of the industry correct? And I'm just a lunatic?" But we forged ahead and we kept going. I think the next, and that was true. It was heartbreaking. So I really thought that I had something that was going to provide a significant advantage for everyone within the sales process. Agents particularly, vendors and buyers. And I was just like, it was almost unanimous where people just told me it was ridiculous and it was never going to work, and I was wasting my time and I was wasting my money, and it was disheartening. The next big one for us, and the one that really sticks in my mind, we built this as a platform of transparency, and I was very, very keen to make sure that it was a really transparent platform. When we made that decision, and you were involved in that discussion, but when we made that decision to offer the ability to hide the prices, that was a really big turning point in our platform.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember those discussions too. There was a huge amount of concern for us around finding a way to do it. Like we understood the need for it, and in some cases it needed to be done in various states and things like that, just to give agents the ability and the flexibility that they needed to operate in a way that they were comfortable with. But it was really important to us in going through that, and I mean, we discussed this over weeks and we pulled it apart, that we still provided that massive element of transparency to the buyers as well,
Yep.
which is of course now how they have that situation where they don't know what the other offers are, but they at least know where they sit in terms of who's actually got the highest offer, and it gives them the
And then
opportunity to compete for it.
and the number of buyers. So it really
Mm,
really clearly shows them how many buyers they're up against, and the frequency of the offers. So when the offers are actually being made.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, and then that gives them more information and more transparency. And one of the things that gets reported, and of course me sort of wearing the hat in that marketing role, and I'm sure you get this a lot too, because you're a rare creature as a managing director. You're not sitting back, sort of, you're up on the front lines and working in the business every single day, and I know that you'd have it no other way. But a lot of the feedback that you get around that as well is really important, and that it's that level of transparency has helped to alleviate a lot of the trust issues that were in place in multi-offer situations, even though the prices aren't revealed.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing hybrid style sales now where people are moving from one to the other. So it's not necessarily that you're stuck in one particular format. And I say this to people a lot where, we are not a method of sale, we're a communication advice, but it does allow agents to seamlessly move. So, give you an example, there's sales that are now run where the first week the prices are hidden, there's no fixed date or end date to the sale. And agents are calling it like a discovery period. Like they're trying to work out how many buyers they've got, where the level of interest is. They're feeding that back or having those discussions with the owners. They don't have to feed it back to the owners because the owners are being updated, but they're having those discussions with the owners. And then once they've got to the point where they've got enough interest, they'll then make a strategic decision to put an end date on the sale. So they give all of their buyers a really clear end time to the sale about when it's going to finish. And then after that, towards the very end of the sale, some will, some won't, but some of them will then open up the prices. So you're almost going through all three stages of the different types of methodology of selling. And it's a unique feature. There is nothing else in the marketplace that even comes close to being able to provide that level of functionality.
Yeah, and that's uh, like, I know we talk about it a lot in terms of marketing. We talk about it being most powerful, most flexible, and things like that. But it really is like you can do everything in the one platform.
That's right. You don't have to switch between platforms. You don't have to make really critical strategic decisions on day one before you
Mm,
know what sort of level of interest. You're able to see how the property is reacted to by the marketplace, see what level of interest you've got, see where those levels are and what sort of value there is, and what your prospects of creating a competitive sale out of that. Have those discussions with the owners without giving the game away to the buyers. Like really sit down and just have those discussions about what the next steps are, and then choose the next step in a really strategic fashion based on the circumstances that you've had over that week or 2 weeks. And it's a real evolution in the way that you manage the offer process. So traditionally, all the decisions that you make in the offer process are made on day one when you're listing the house. We're going to go to auction. We're going to run a fixed date sale. We're going to run a private treaty. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But you're making those decisions without any benefit of consumer feedback or market feedback. And sometimes those decisions are wrong. The ability to be able to make those decisions, during the course of the sale, as that market information is coming back to you, like it is a massive improvement in the agent's ability to be able to deliver a really top quality sales process to their owners, and also provides certainty in communication and transparency at whatever level the agent decides back to the buyers. But it really does provide a substantial improvement on what was an extraordinarily archaic and old-fashioned type system.
yeah, yeah. Now on that, like you're talking about a lot of the different features and that flexibility, um, that has been built into the system over the years, and I mean, five years of innovation has got us to this point where we're sitting here and having this discussion. But what I really want to ask is, how has that innovation come about, right? Like what's driven that? What's pushed that?
So I've also always from day one, had a really close working relationship with all of our agents. We end up becoming like a lot of our long-term clients. So I don't class as clients; they're friends of mine, and they've been really upfront with me and telling me what they need. They'll come back to me and say, "Dave, your platform's awesome. I love it, but I really wish it could do this. Or I really wish I could do that." And Joel and I have a process with that. If someone asks for it once, yeah, we'll take it on board and we'll have a bit of a think about it. If it gets asked multiple times, and it's a repeated question that gets asked, then we'll look into it and we'll see if we can squeeze it in and make it work. There are some times when I'm watching sales, and I can't even tell you how many thousands of sales I've watched now. There are times when I'm watching sales where I go, I reckon it'd be better if it did that. I reckon it'd be better if it just made that process a little bit simpler. And the third part to that is, although I'm probably stretching the bar to call myself a real estate agent these days, I do occasionally sell my own sell properties for people. I think last year I sold 7 houses. I think I've sold maybe 5 this year so far. Like, they're not massive numbers, and I don't do it to make money. I do it because it puts me in the front line. It puts me at open for inspections. It puts me in buyer inspections. It puts me in front of buyers and vendors. And I then see from a really practical, hands-on point of view, stuff that I reckon needs to work better, stuff that I reckon will improve the process, improve the simplicity, improve the efficiency. So there's probably 3 parts to that question. It's direct feedback from the market. It's stuff that I observe while watching sales happen. And it's stuff that I experience as an agent out there in the field.
Yeah. And I think that's the secret. That's why I asked that question. I wanted that answer from you, because obviously I'm on the inside. I see it. But that's not something that normally happens. It gets to a certain point, a certain size, like where Market Buy is at now, where the founder's often not on the front line anymore. They're in the boardroom, and that's something that I think is absolutely critical. But that also leads me into my next question. And I've sort of scrolled to the part of the article. There's so much innovation that's happened. There is so much flexibility in the platform. And as we know, like, anytime you're building anything in the tech world, the more power and the more flexibility you build into it, the more problems you bring to it, technically speaking, right?
Yeah.
Yet Market Buy is ridiculously stable. In fact, the only downtime we have ever had was actually not as a result of Market Buy, but as a result of servers, and it was a nationwide issue. And even then, it was down for, I think it was about 4 minutes or something like that. Like, it's such a ridiculously stable platform. How have you managed that threat, right, by introducing so much flexibility, so much power into the platform? How have you ensured that it remains stable with thousands of sales going through it, tens of thousands of people actually on the platform and using it simultaneously and everything like that? How have you accounted to ensure and maintain that stability?
Look, I have absolutely nothing to do with that. Our dev team, led by our dev leader, is hands down a freaking genius. Sometimes success in business is a little bit about your idea. It's a little bit about your timing, and it's a whole lot to do with luck as well. I was really, really fortunate to come across that guy with Joel when I came across Joel. And there's Market Buy wouldn't exist without his out-of-the-box thinking, his ability to be able to react to situations quickly, his ability to be able to take my sales brain and somehow translate what I tell him, which is very much sales-based. Like, I'm a salesperson at the end of the day. I've been a salesperson all my life, but I'm able to tell him from a sales perspective. He's able to take that and turn it into code. So that's the bottom line to that. We have a dev team that is ridiculously talented.
There's nothing better than an in-house dev team who are the secret ninjas in the basement. Yeah, I've worked with dev teams for 20 years, and as I mentioned at the top, we've been working in Market Buy together. Like, I've been in Market Buy for about 3 years now, and you bang on. Like, where Market Buy is going to go, where our future is, and all of our planning and everything we do, it's going to get there on the back of the fact that we've got a ninja. We've got Joel, and Joel and his team and what they do, because I know the size and the complexity of the system. Like, the system is incredibly simple at the front end. What clients, agents, buyers, sellers see is incredibly simple. But in order to make it simple and to make it work perfectly, it's an incredibly complex system at the back end. And the more complex the system gets, the more threats to stability there are, and yet Joel's navigating it perfectly.
And not only that, in what we've done over the journey is make the front end, so the user experience, increasingly simpler and easy to use. And it's one of the odd things about software or tech. The simpler you make it for the user, the more complex it has to be in the back end to make that simplicity work. And it's one of those things that I've learned over the time. The easier it is for an agent to log in and be able to send stuff to their buyers and to be able to send SMSs, the easier it is for a buyer to be able to log in and to be able to make all of these changes and have all of these options, and to make it really user friendly for them takes a massive amount of sophistication in the back end. But let's stop talking about our dev team, because although I love them to death, I don't want anyone coming knocking on their door.
Look, that's a fair call. That's a fair call. Look, I mean, we're about up to time, so there's only really one question left to ask, I think, at this point. And there's a fair bit in the article, and if people want to check that out, it's on eliteagent.com. Just search online offer management platform market buyers come of age, or market buyer, it'll pop up. But we talked a little bit about the history. There's a few things we missed there. We went to the US and sold property in the US, sold in Manhattan, apartments, high-rise apartment in the middle of COVID. So there's been successes there. With everything that we've done in the last 5 years to get to this point now, what does the future look like for Market Buy?
So, as you know, there are people out there that like to watch us very, very closely. All I will say to that, I'm absolutely we have massive plans. I have absolutely no intention of foreshadowing any of those plans publicly. All I will say is that we are going to continue to explore new markets. We are going to continue to develop our existing markets. We are going to continue to grow. And for the time being, we are going to stay a very privately held company, so that we can keep our cards very close to our chest. The only thing I'll add to that, as a little tip for people, I'm extraordinarily happy to see that international travel will be open in December, and it will give us some fun coming into 2022.
So for a better year in 2022. All right, Dave, well, thank you very, very much for joining me, and for going through and having a chat in regards to Market Buy and the last 5 years, and of course everything that has happened. I hope that everyone on this who've jumped on got plenty out of. If you've got any questions, by all means, you can hit Dave up, hit me up, send us a message, send us an email, however you want to go about it. And that's it from us. So what I'll say is, may all your building and pest inspections go through without a hitch, and all your buyers be paying cash. That's it from us. Bye for now.